The zipper's rasp sliced through the midnight hush like a knife on bone. And before I could even sit up, a shadow loomed over me, broad shoulders blocking the sliver of moonlight seeping through the tent flap. "Hey! Easy there," a voice rumbled, low and gravelly, laced with that southern drawl that hit like warm bourbon. "I ain't here to hurt you. Just needed a place to crash." Storms comin', my heart hammered against my ribs, fists clenching the sleeping bag as rain began to patter on the nylon above. But it was his eyes, storm gray and unflinching, that pinned me in place, making the wilderness feel smaller, more intimate than it had any right to be. I was Logan Hayes, 28 and running on fumes from a life that had chewed me up in Seattle's relentless grind, dead-end graphic design gigs, a string of hookups that left me hollower each time, and the ghost of my ex's parting shot. "You're too much drama for this city, Lo. Just disappear." So I did. Ditched the urban sprawl for the Smoky Mountains, pitching my tent solo in the Nantahala National Forest, chasing some bullshit notion of finding myself amid the pines and the possibility of bears. 3 days in, I'd convinced myself solitude was the cure. No Wi-Fi, no notifications, just the crackle of my campfire and the ache of muscles unused to hauling a pack. But that night, as thunder growled in the distance like an old lover's grudge, solitude cracked open. He called himself Mason, didn't offer a last name, and I didn't ask. Slipped inside my two-man tent like he owned the damn thing, shaking rain from his dark curls and peeling off a drenched jacket that smelled of pine sap and something earthier, like he'd been wrestling the forest itself. "Name's Mason," he said, extending a calloused hand that swallowed mine whole, his grip firm but not aggressive, thumb brushing my knuckles in a way that sent a jolt straight to my gut. Close, he was all rugged contrasts, mid-30s maybe, with a jawline shadowed by stubble, faded tattoos snaking up his forearms, eagles and anchors, the kind you get in a Navy port town, and eyes that held stories I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. "You got room for one more lost soul? Or should I brave the downpour?" I should have said no. Kicked him out into the tempest, zipped up, and gone back to staring at the tent ceiling, replaying my failures like a bad indie flick. But there was something in his voice, a quiet desperation masked by that easy charm that mirrored my own. "Just don't snore," I muttered, scooting over to make space on the narrow pad, my back brushing the cool nylon wall. He chuckled, a sound that vibrated through the confined air, and stripped down to a thermal shirt and boxers, his body lean and marked by scars, a puckered line across his ribs, like shrapnel's kiss. We lay there in the dark, inches apart, the storm raging outside as rain drummed a frantic rhythm. His breathing evened out first, but sleep dodged me, hyper-aware of his heat, the faint salt of his skin mingling with the damp earth. Dawn broke gray and sodden, filtering through the trees like cigarette smoke. I woke to find him already up, crouched by the embers of last night's fire, coaxing flames from wet wood with practiced hands. Coffee bubbled in a dented enamel pot. Where the hell had he gotten that? And he handed me a mug without a word, steam curling between us like a tentative bridge. "Black okay?" he asked, those eyes flicking over me, praising, not leering. I nodded, wrapping chilled fingers around the warmth, and we sat there as the forest stirred, birdsong piercing the mist, leaves shivering off last night's deluge. Turns out Mason was a contractor from Knoxville, specializing in restoring old barns. Ironic, he said with a wry grin, For a guy who couldn't fix his own shit. Divorced 5 years back. No kids. Just a pickup truck loaded with tools and regrets. We talked easy at first. The kind of surface bullshit that fills awkward silences. Best hiking trails? His vote for the ats wilder stretches. Worst hangover cures? Mine involved greasy diners off I-40. But as the sun clawed higher, burning off the fog, the words deepened. He confessed to drifting, jobs that paid the bills but starved the soul. Nights spent in dive bars nursing whiskeys and wondering if freedom was just another word for alone. I spilled about Seattle. The rain that never quit. The ex who bailed when I finally admitted I couldn't fake straight anymore. The family back in Ohio who'd rather pretend I was their artistic nephew than their gay son. It's like, I said, poking at the fire with a stick. Sparks dancing like fireflies. You're screaming into a void, and the echo just mocks you. Mason nodded. Slow, his gaze steady. Echoes lie. Logan. Sometimes you gotta listen closer. By midday, we'd packed up my sight and hiked deeper into the backcountry. His pack slung easy over one shoulder, mine feeling like a penance. The trail wound through rhododendron thickets, roots snaking like veins underfoot, and he pointed out edible plants, ramps, berries, with the casual expertise of someone who'd grown up wrestling creeks and clearing brush. We stopped at a overlook, the valley sprawling below like a rumpled green quilt, and shared a cliff bar, knees bumping as we leaned against the same boulder. That's when it shifted, his hand on my arm, steadying me as I laughed at some dumb joke about city boys and poison ivy, lingering just a beat too long. Electricity hummed, unspoken but electric, and when our eyes met, there was no mistaking it, the hunger, the what if, the precipice we both teetered on. That night, we camped by a rushing creek, the tent pitched under a canopy of hemlocks that whispered secrets in the wind. Dinner was trout he'd caught and filleted with a pocket knife, grilled over hickory coals till the skin crisped golden. We ate cross-legged, passing a flask of bourbon he'd stashed in his boot smooth, cutting the chill. Stories flowed freer now. His Navy days off the Carolina coast. The buddies who'd saved his ass in a sandstorm but couldn't save his marriage when he came out to her in a haze of post-discharge blues. She said it wasn't me. Just the lie, he murmured, firelight carving shadows across his face. But hell, Logan, lying to yourself, that's the real betrayal. I told him about my first kiss, stolen behind a bleacher at a high school football game, the terror and thrill twisting like kudzu in my chest. His laugh was soft, then silent, and suddenly his fingers traced my jaw, rough pad of his thumb against my lip. The kiss hit like the storm had returned, fierce, unrelenting, tasting of smoke and need. He pulled me into his lap, hands roaming under my shirt, mapping scars I didn't know I had, the faint stretch marks from a growth spurt, the freckles dusting my collarbone like stars. I gasped into his mouth, fingers tangling in his curls, the world narrowing to the press of his body, solid and unyielding. We tumbled onto the sleeping bags, clothes shed in a frenzy, skin slick with creek water and sweat. He was gentle at first, reverent almost, whispering my name like a prayer as he kissed down my throat, across my chest, lower still. Then urgency took over, nails raking backs, hips grinding in a rhythm older than the mountains. When he entered me, slow and sure, it wasn't just release, it was revelation, the kind that shatters and rebuilds in the same breath. Afterward, we lay tangled, his heartbeat thundering against mine, the creek's murmur lulling us into a fragile peace. But peace in the wild is fleeting. 2 days blurred into a haze of hikes and stolen touches. Waking to his mouth on my neck. Lazy afternoons skinny dipping in hidden pools where he'd chase me through the shallows. Laughing till we collapsed on sun-warmed rocks. He taught me to whittle, a crude fish from a birch branch, and I sketched him by firelight, charcoal smudging my fingers as I captured the curve of his smile, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners. "Your trouble, Hayes," he'd tease, stealing the sketch to tuck in his wallet. But there was a weight behind it, a shadow that crept in during quiet moments. He'd go still, staring into the flames, fingers drumming his knee like Morse code for unspoken fears. On the 4th morning, as we broke camp for the trailhead, his phone, buried deep in his pack, buzzed to life for the first time since he'd appeared. No signal out here, but we'd looped close enough to civilization for it to catch a bar. He glanced at the screen, face hardening like cooling lava, and silenced it quick. "X," he grunted when I raised a brow. Nothing. But the lie hung there, acrid as burnt coffee. That night, in a roadside motel off US 74, my car waiting, his truck idling like a getaway plan, we made love again, slower this time, bodies speaking what words couldn't. He traced my tattoos, a compass rose on my ribs, inked after Seattle, murmuring promises against my skin. "This ain't just the woods, Logan. You feel that?" I did, God. I did, clinging to him as if he were the anchor I'd been adrift without. Yet anchors drag sometimes. Back in Knoxville, he invited me to crash at his place, a weathered craftsman on the edge of town, porch swing creaking under wisteria vines. Felt domestic, dangerously so, mornings with eggs scrambled loose. His calloused hand on my thigh under the breakfast table, evenings on the roof deck, beers sweating in the humid dusk, trading dreams of escaping the South for something wilder, like Montana ranches or Pacific trails. But the shadows grew. Late-night calls he'd take in the garage, voice low and edged, a photo on his nightstand, him with a woman, beaming at some beach, ring glinting that he flipped face down when I walked in. "Old life," he'd say, but his eyes dodged mine. The betrayal cracked open on a sticky July evening, 2 weeks in. I'd surprised him at a job site, an old tobacco barn on the outskirts, half rebuilt under the relentless sun. Parked my rental, he'd insisted on driving me everywhere, like I was fragile. I wandered the perimeter, waving off dust motes in the golden light. Laughter drifted from inside, feminine and bright, and I followed it, heart light with idiot hope. There he was, Mason, perched on a ladder, handing tools to her, a woman with sun-bleached hair and a laugh like wind chimes. His wife. Not X, as he'd sworn. Emily, back from her sister's in Atlanta, working things out while he played house with me. I froze in the doorway, the scent of sawdust choking me. He saw me then, color draining from his face, ladder rung creaking under his sudden grip. "Logan, wait." But she turned, confusion blooming into something sharper, and pieced it together in the silence. The way his eyes pleaded, the flush creeping up my neck. "Mason." Her voice was a scalpel, slicing the air. He stammered, descending in a clatter of boots, reaching for me, but I backed away, the world tilting like a funhouse mirror. "You lied," I whispered, not a question, the words tasting like bile. "Everything, a goddamn performance." Emily's gaze flicked between us, hardening into betrayal's twin blade. Who the hell is he? Mace. The drive back to his place was a blur of recriminations, her tears soaking the passenger seat. His white-knuckled grip on the wheel as he begged her to listen. Me trailing in my car like a funeral cortege. At the house, it erupted, doors slamming, voices shattering the evening calm. I packed my duffel in the guest room, every shirt a reminder, folded by his hands, scented with his soap. She cornered me in the kitchen, eyes red-rimmed but fierce. "Did you know?" she demanded, voice cracking. I shook my head, throat tight. He said, "You were done." Her laugh was bitter, a shard of glass. "We're trying, Logan. Therapy, date nights, the whole American dream bullshit. But him? He's always runnin' from himself." Mason burst in then, face ashen, pulling me aside in the hallway. "It ain't what you think. Em and me were separated, legal papers and all. But she showed up last week, talkin' reconciliation, and I panicked. Didn't want to lose this." He gestured wildly between us, eyes wild with desperation. "You. Us." His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheek, but it felt like chains now, warmth turned trap. "I love you, Lo. From that first night in the tent. Don't throw it away, love." The word hung, a grenade with the pin half pulled. I wanted to believe, to fold into him like I had under the stars, but the lie festered, poisoning the memory. I left that night, tires screeching on the gravel drive, Knoxville's lights blurring in the rearview as I aimed for the interstate. No destination, just motion, heart a lead weight in my chest, replaying every touch, every whisper, as betrayal's acid etched them hollow. Slept in rest stops, ate gas station burritos that tasted like regret, until the Smokies called me back, a siren's song of unfinished business. 3 days later, I was there again, same trailhead, same rented gear, pitching the tent solo under a sky bruised with thunderheads. Rain came at dusk, relentless sheets that turned the earth to mud, and I huddled inside, flashlight beam dancing over the nylon like a ghost light. That's when the zipper rasped again. Not mine, but the flaps, inching open against the gale. Mason's face appeared, drenched and haunted, curls plastered to his forehead, flannel clinging like a second skin. "Logan," he gasped, voice raw over the roar. "Please, hear me out." I lunged forward, shoving at the fabric, but he was inside in a flash, collapsing to his knees in the muck of the vestibule, water pooling around him. "She's gone. For good this time. Filed the papers yesterday. Said she deserved better than half a man." His hands trembled as he reached for me, but I jerked back, the space between us a chasm wider than the valley. "And what about me, Mason? What do I deserve? Your scraps? Your secrets?" He bowed his head, rain dripping from his lashes like tears. "Nothing. You deserve the world, Lo. And I fucked it up, 'cause I'm a coward, scared of losing the life I knew, even if it was killing me." The storm outside mirrored the one in his eyes, lightning cracking the sky as thunder shook the ground. We argued till voices hoarsed, me hurling accusations like stones, liar, user, ghost, and him taking them, unflinching, until the fight bled into sobs. "I fell for you that first night," he choked out, crawling closer on his knees, the tent floor slick between us. "Your laugh in the rain, The way you sketch the stars like you could touch him. It's real. I'm real. Just give me a chance to prove it. I wanted to hate him, God. I tried, but the pull was magnetic. The love we'd forged in these woods too stubborn to die. Dawn crept in, gray and forgiving, as we sat back to back, exhaustion claiming us in fits. When the sun pierced the clouds, gilding the mist, I turned, finding him asleep against the pack, vulnerability etched in the lines of his face. Forgiveness isn't a light switch, it's a hike, mile after muddy mile. But in that moment, watching him stir, murmuring my name in his sleep, I saw the man, not the mask, not the mistakes, but the soul who'd unzipped more than a tent that night. He cracked me open, too. We didn't rush it. Spent the day breaking camp slow, words sparse but honest, boundaries drawn like new trails, therapy cards exchanged, his for couples, mine for solo unraveling. He drove me to Asheville, the city humming with buskers and brews, and we parted with a kiss, tentative, tasting of possibility, under the neon glow of a dive bar sign. Call me when you're ready, he said, thumb tracing my lip, eyes clear for the first time. I nodded, heart a fledgling thing, wings testing the air. Months blurred, me back in Seattle, redesigning logos by day, journaling the ache by night, him in Knoxville, hammering nails and truths into place. Letters came, real ones, on thick stock paper, scented faintly of pine, stories of progress, sketches of barns reborn, confessions inked like tattoos. Miss your fire, lo. Builds better than any I've known. I wrote back, raw and unfiltered, the distance a forge for something stronger. By fall, I flew south, leaves aflame along the Appalachians as his truck met me at the airport. No tent this time, just his bed, bodies reconnecting in the quiet hours, learning each other anew, scars kissed, secrets shared under ceiling fans' lazy spin. Emily faded to a footnote, her grace in the divorce a quiet humanity that humbled us both. We built slow, weekends in the mountains, his hand in mine on crowded streets, coming out to his crew over beers, grunts and backslaps. The South's gruff acceptance. My family, a video call, tears and toasts, the void echoing softer now. 1 year to the day, we returned to that site, Nantahalla's wild heart, pitching a bigger tent, flames crackling as stars wheeled overhead. He pulled a ring from his pocket, not diamond flash, but hammered silver, etched with a compass rose. Not a skin for forever yet, he said, voice thick, kneeling in the dirt we'd first claimed. Just the next trail. With you, I pulled him up, kissing him fierce under the moon, the forest bearing witness. Yeah, Mason. Let's hike. Nothing was normal after that zipper's rasp. Not my heart, not my horizons. But in the unraveling, we found the weave, 2 men, scarred and stubborn, stitching a life from the threads of betrayal and grace. American as apple pie and backroads, raw as the rain that birthed us. And damn if it didn't feel like home.